Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. The post-Daniel Levy era begins with a win. Thomas Souček becomes the first Spurs manager since Jose Mourinho to beat West Ham at the London Stadium as Tottenham run riot at the Taxpayer Stadium. It finished Spurs 3, West Ham 0. Spurs' biggest win at West Ham since 1962. 4 games played. 3 clean sheets. Spurs are firmly back in the engine under Thomas Souček. Thank you so much for those out there that are watching, listening, and tuning into the show. It's a top-tier panel to discuss a top-tier result. Back alongside me, broadcaster extraordinaire Russ Williams is back. Actor TJ Ramini is back on the screens, as is the wonderful Marlon at the Spurs Kings. We've reunited them in Season 8 of Last Word on Spurs. We've reunited the gang. Before we bring in this wonderful panel, let's talk you through the match facts and the stats to Spurs' 3-0 win up at the London Stadium in a conclusive victory for Thomas Souček's Tottenham. West Ham 0, Spurs 3. Spurs dominating shots alone, 14-7. Spurs also edging the shots on target 5-4. Shots inside the opposition box, Spurs edging that as well, 10-6. Tottenham, you know, this is going really dominant in terms of the tackles, 14-13. West Ham, the home side, the busier of the two sides in terms of clearances, 42-9. Recoveries, West Ham having to be busier than Spurs, as you would expect, 33-2. Tottenham dominating the corner count, 13-2. God, this is joyful reading some of these stats out there. Possession base, Spurs 64% to West Ham's 36. And XG, even Jason McGovern's a lot of XG at the moment. 0.64 for West Ham to Tottenham's 1.32. In what was, you've got to say, a fantastic second half display by Thomas Souček's Tottenham, where quite simply they blew West Ham away. Pape Matar Sarr, of course, putting Spurs ahead, which followed from there a Lucas Bergvall second goal, a brilliant header, lovely bit of play from Cuti Romero in the build-up to that goal. And Micky van der Ven finished it off and quite simply waved away the Hammers fans as they were making their exits firmly. But very nicely managed by Thomas Souček. A lot of players getting their opportunity too. Russ, should we kick off with you? A lovely start for Thomas Souček and Tottenham. He's just the third Spurs manager to win his first 2 away top-flight matches in charge of the club. He joins Ozzy Ardiles in 93-94 and Tim Sherwood in the season 13-14. But we're firmly back after this international break, Russ.
Yeah, I mean, goodbye, Bournemouth. Hello, West Ham. I mean, they take us so seriously. How miserable are they going to be tonight, their supporters? But I thought disjointed first half, really, if I'm honest. Front three wasn't really working. Bergvall tonight showed us what we suspected he could do. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. And Johan Langer, of course, brought him in for £8.5 million. So I think he earned his salary there, didn't he? You know, so it's a very good win. You know, another couple of goals, we'd have been top of the league above you lot, you know who. But overall, I just think that we're going to have, it's so early, Rick, in the season, that I think we're going to have good performances like today, although if we're really honest, West Ham are not all that. I mean, they're a team, to my eyes, they didn't look as though they were playing for the manager and the coaching staff, but it could just be me. And obviously they've got problems with the owners and the board and what have you. We've had our run-ins with the previous incumbent, as we know, as executive chairman. But he's gone, and there they are, the 4 wise monkeys, now representing us at away games. And, you know, it's got to be said, I think there's a better feeling about the club at the moment. There is no doubt that Daniel Levy's last managerial appointment, Thomas Souček, is going to be very good for the club. But I think even he would be honest enough to say, you know, steady as she goes. So far, so good. But he would have been disturbed. I think we'd all agree. The Bournemouth game was so terrible. So to bounce back away from home, I think that this has been a tremendous result for Spurs, and we just got to keep it up now. And of course, Champions League is but days away. But overall, I thought it was good. I thought that Simmons was good. I felt a little bit sorry for Tell. It was a bit like a lamppost, sort of stuck in the first half. And I think Thomas Frank, I was thinking about it, probably said, guys and girls, or everyone watching and listening in the panel, he probably said to him, okay, you're disappointed, you're not in the Champions League squad. I get that. Go out today and show me what you can do. And once again, it didn't really go that well for him, but we've got to persevere, you know. It's a team game, and he could well pop up and do a Brennan Johnson in a big game and get a big goal. So, you know, everyone's behind him and the rest of the players. And I think we just got to, you know, bumble along as we are at the moment. It's a lot better than last year. And we saw what the previous incumbent in the manager's chair did yesterday and where he is. We've got to forget all about that. You know, there's still loads of stuff on social media. Angie's great, Angie's rubbish. Forget about it. It's history now. His place is there. We have moved on with some new players, certainly a rather good new manager, new coaching staff, and now a new setup in the boardroom. So I think we should be positive.
Yeah, I think one thing, Russ, that you picked up on there that I actually want to bring into the show to come around to you, Tej, is that, you know, what was great is the way he acknowledged the Bournemouth result. Because he said, look, when we played Bournemouth, it was an absolutely horrendous result. And the post-match for him is the biggest learning. And he said, I watched the match back. It didn't get any better, but I promise you, I learned from that. And I just didn't get it right on the day. And I think it's great that a manager can admit their faults, admit when they've got it wrong, and now come back with the way we have done in such a wonderful fashion, really. And it's exactly what we needed after last week. You know, I think Frank got his plans and his tactics spot on. Very good on set pieces. The way, again, you know, we looked so dangerous from corners. That's been one, I think, the biggest thing so far we've seen under his reign. The Bergvall selection, that paid off. We looked defensive, very, very solid. And we managed that also without a fit number 9. So, Tej, your thoughts on what was a pretty conclusive win at a place where, look, we said in the green room, it's never an easy place to go for us to get a result.
No, absolutely. I mean, firstly, lovely to be back on the show. Thank you to the viewers and the listeners as ever. Just want to echo as well all the love that Russ is receiving, man. Russ, lovely to see you, brother. You know, I got a lot of love for you as well, mate. So, yeah, delighted with the result today. And as we were discussing in the green room, they're a funny team, West Ham. I don't really know. I kind of don't really have an opinion on them. Of course, big up Marlon, man. Marlon always gets the love. Of course, mate. Of course. And Russ was saying, and I think he's right, I don't know any Tottenham fans that kind of go into West Ham thinking, oh, yeah, big London derby. I don't really, I mean, I know it's very important for them, and that's great, man. Like, cool, you know, wicked. Have it mean a lot to you. But there was only one team in it today. You know, yes, it was a little disjointed in the first half. But listen, you know, this is a new team with lots of new players who don't know each other. And also, let's not pretend that these seismic shifts at the top are not going to have an effect on the boys on the football pitch. And so I think that we were very kind of professional in the first half. We weren't scintillating. We didn't set the pitch alight, but, you know, we didn't make many mistakes. Just quickly on Tell as well, like I've often said, if you're going to do something, at least put yourself about. And he did put himself about. If you press on your own, it's never going to be very successful. But, you know, he did it anyway. So I think it shows a strength of character that obviously, you know, he's a young boy. He's only 20 years old. He's going to feel disappointed being left out of the Champions League squad. And I agree with Russ that he was probably told by the manager, you know, go and show me what you can do. And at least he expelled a lot of energy and you know, yeah, he tried to kind of have an impact on the game, which is something. And of course, you know, playing in a false 9, which is not his position. So I'm really happy with the result. Of course, I'm sure we'll get into individual performances and everything a little bit later. It's never easy to win a game in the Premier League. And to hear that that's the biggest defeat we've handed to West Ham since 1962, wow, you know, so fantastic. A day to celebrate, gang. You know, we can walk around in our Tottenham gear all weekend, feeling happy and proud. Lovely to be back on the show.
Bless you, mate. I mean, like I said, we said, you know, the fact of the matter is, Miles, it's a tough place Spurs have found to go and win there. You have to go back against that Jose Mourinho era, his first game in charge at Spurs. I think the manner of it was really conclusive, and that would have given the fans a lot of confidence. I know they went down to 10 men, but it kind of reiterates the point that, you know, 3 goals, 3 clean sheets. And, it was maybe a derby defined by 10 minutes because of the nature of the red card and the timing of it, Miles. What was your takeaways by the way the team dispatched the Hammers?
I thought it was a very functional performance. Like TJ said, I didn't think we were great in spells. Like usually we see great football and stuff like that, but I thought we were very good at what we were supposed to be doing. And I think that's what's good to see going forward, because look, we've kept another clean sheet, which when you compare us to the last couple of years, it's not been great. Look, it's been 6 years since, 6 years since we last beat West Ham at their place, which when they first opened this new stadium, we were beating them all the time. So it was it's been a bit of a culture shock for the last 6 years that we haven't kind of seen one of these performances. But I think what I saw was the first 10 minutes, I think there was a 10-minute spell where West Ham was slightly on top a little bit, and we were just giving them too many chances in the middle. But we seemed to I think Sarr, Bergvall and Paulinho finally sorted themselves out. And then as soon as that corner went in and it was disallowed, we were completely on top. And I think Russ is right, where bless him, he tried, but it just wasn't working for him at the time. And I think Xavi and Kudos were looking for him, but it just wasn't working for him in certain parts of the game. But I thought, actually, when it came down to it in that second half, because I just thought once we got that first goal, we were literally on top and we were going to blow them away. I couldn't see West Ham getting back into that game. And if anyone has watched West Ham this season and parts of last, I'm not a big fan of Graham Potter, never have been. I was glad when he went to West Ham, and you can clearly see they're a team struggling. That result against Forest was just pure luck. Literally, it was 10 minutes where they made a sub and not in the Forest thing. So West Ham are going to struggle, but the fact we've gone and beat them, because it was quite similar to when we played them last year. But the problem was last year we were so bad that we couldn't get the result. But it's good to see. And I think looking at the whole aspect of the game and looking at everything that's happened in the boardroom and everything, I think it's positive now. I think we can start looking forward to the future of Spurs. And hopefully it's refreshing to think that everything that happened off the pitch and we can still pull out a performance like that. So I'm more than happy. And I can't wait to start these games going now. I think the Bournemouth aside, as long as we don't get any more like that, which we probably will, we're going to see certain games like that this season. But you know what? This season's going to be fun, a lot of fun. And hopefully we see a lot more positive results like today, where we don't have to play great. We just have to get the job done and be functional.
Yeah, I think it's important to say as well, we're at the start of a new manager's reign. There's going to be, bumps in the road. I think people forget that. I know we had that amazing start under Rand, obviously the 10 games and 8 wins and 2 draws. It was obviously a phenomenal start to a season, but I think, reality is that with what we've seen under many managers that have come in, it takes time for them to find their feet. Some of the greatest that we've had is taking time to find their feet in the recent years. People love Pochettino. If you remember, his first season was up and down. I said this before, that what I really want to see from me at the end of the first season is a sense of identity that gives me confidence going to the second season, that I can already see real green shoots and what we're trying to do. And if I see that, then that's fantastic. From what I see from the majority of Spurs fans, I see a lot of Spurs fans that are getting behind Thomas Frank. And by the fact we've said it, 4 games played, 3 clean sheets. Now, we'll just give credit for somebody here. I think Matt Johel said it. Our lineup, it had a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, 2 22-year-olds, a 23-year-old, 24, and a 25-year-old. And we did, when it comes to it, a tough place, like we said, that we haven't won there, like we said, for the last 6-7 years. The potential of this team is huge. And I think what we have to remember is the core of this group is so young. There's no reason for this group not to explode over the next 3 years, providing at the same time, of course, that it's given the right necessary backing. It's given some experience in there as well. And I think that's why, again, when you come to end of transfer windows, that's why fans want to see there's 1 or 2 extra additions to really push the squad on. But look, guys, if you can, for us out there, keep liking and subscribing to the show. That would be greatly appreciated. Russ, a lot has happened this week. We're going to hear from Thomas Frank shortly, but it is the start of a new era. Obviously, as we mentioned at the start of the show, it's a non-Daniel Levy era. First time in over 25 years, a quarter of a century. In attendance was Viv Lewis, there was Johan Lang, there was Vinay Venkatesham, and there was also Nick Boycha, who would like what they would have seen in terms of the way Spurs really much accelerated to that win in the second half. Are you feeling right now that there's a real genuine confidence in yourself or the way Frank will manage these next few months? Because again, he's going to have to face Carabao Cup, Europa League involvement. Sorry, not Europa. Won't be Europa League. It'll be Champions League involvement, can I just say?
Yes.
How would he manage that, do you think, for you, in terms of dealing with the magnitude of competitions that he's got?
Well, I think he's a very smart manager. I think he's very pragmatic. I think he will make the board aware, although January is difficult, of who we should be bringing in. I mean, to get to the second stage of the Champions League would be awesome. That would strengthen his hand. And I'll tell you what struck me most. I don't know about everybody else. Is when they were speaking after Daniel Levy had gone. I think it was Vinay actually who just said, you know, we just want to win more often. And you know, if you ask any Spurs fan, that's what we would all say, really. I mean, last season we know was a shocker in the Premier League, but we ended up with a trophy, as we all know. But we do want to see us play with style and to win more often. And I do think that, you know, it's going to be difficult in the Premier League to finish in the top four. You know, we've spoken about it before. Cup runs, absolutely possible. Champions League, anything could happen. You know, I mean, the God of Football has been quite kind to us on paper in the draw that we've got. So I think Thomas Frank and his staff and the players will be modest, but will be quietly determined and positive about what they can achieve. And, you know, as was pointed out, you put up their comment there, the amount of young players I know don't have the experience, but what they do have is no fear. And I think we saw that today with Bergvall, that if you put him in the right area of the pitch, and he was in it today, he can be a nuisance. And what I love about him, and there was other good performances today, but he did stick out, and he was, even on the TV, wasn't he, the man of the match. What sticks out about him for me is, and from the very first moment he came on as a sub for us, whenever the ball came to him, he looked to pass forward. And I think that is a great trait in a young man and a footballer who obviously believes in their ability. And it doesn't matter whether all those forward passes don't work all the time, because you need someone to make them. And I just think he's getting better and better and better. Obviously, he's a Swedish international in the World Cup. They're not doing so well. Another bad result, but you know, we don't care about Sweden really. We're only caring about Spurs and our football club. You know, and Decky was saying, wasn't he, in the week, you know, that he thinks he's a couple of months away from being able to play again. And you know, just we can bring him in to what is already a good team. But if we keep playing the way we're playing and accept that the odd Bournemouth, in inverted commas, is going to happen, I think that they get more confident game after game after game. And I think Thomas Frank is the sort of manager that if we're beaten in a cracking game, say 3-2, even a lot of us Spurs fans would go, well, look, you know, we got pipped. They were better, you know, in this particular game, and we just have to accept it. What we don't want is sort of like a barrage of negativity that was coming over everyone. It was inescapable. It was a doom loop of being a Spurs fan. And I think we've moved away from that. Yeah.
I think the key thing is, Russ, like you've touched upon, you know, the Bournemouth games, that they may happen, but I think the type of performance like that has got to be a one-off. And I think what we've seen, Siege, in regards to the City game and this game, is that when Spurs get on top, they really do almost suffocate the opposition and don't let them back in. I mean, how critical is that skill set to have in terms of the way the team does function? Like Marlon said, it was a very functional performance that it did feel once the team got ahead. There was very little doubt in my mind that we go on to win the game. And West Ham, to be honest, they did self-implode. Obviously, they saw Souček being obviously sent off for them. But did you feel the same, that as soon as we got one up, there was a confidence in the way Spurs would then go about really picking West Ham off?
Yes. I mean, I think as well, structurally, we just look so sound. I remember the first show that I did this season, I was remarking on how extraordinarily this set of players, for whatever reason, you know, whether Thomas Frank is, you know, the single greatest orator in footballing history, or if he has a way of imparting his views and his philosophies in a way that players just find entirely digestible and sort of immediately digestible, because I agree with Russ as well that we don't need to talk about last season or whatever the setup last season, because that's not relevant. You know, we live in the moment. And what I'm seeing now in this Tottenham Hotspur team, this very youthful team, is a real cohesion and an understanding. And again, I said this on the last show, but it just keeps happening, is this idea of unity. Is it almost kind of, it has that feeling of, I will do everything that I possibly can for the man to my left and the man to my right, and I will trust that he will do the same. It really has that kind of entirely galvanized feeling to it, and you can see it. And that, again, is very infectious. It also sets a tone. And if you've got young men, 20, 21, 22, I mean, you know, think back to when you were 20, 21 years old. I've often said I couldn't find my arse with both hands until I was about 26. And so it really just kind of sets a tone of caliber and quality and commitment. I didn't mean that sentence to be quite so alliterative, but I'll take it. And it just means that players coming into the team, like Xavi Simons, of course, he's a really talented player, but he's come from a completely different league. He's coming in with a sense of group expectation, not just the boss saying to you, now, come on, young man, pull your socks up and all that kind of thing. It's different when your friends, when your teammates say that to you. And so I said it before, I still think the signing of the season was Thomas Frank. And my goodness, it's working. Now, of course, we've touched on Bergvall. I said on the last show, under Thomas Frank, I believe Lucas Bergvall will be one of, if not the best central midfielder in the Premier League. He's 20 years old. He's built like a bull. He has a temperament to boot. He is entirely fearless. He's technical. He's got two beautiful feet, an eye for goal. He's got a footballer's brain. You know, he's got elements of Modric that I can already see, even just kind of in his physicality. And I don't know what his limit is, this boy.
Limitless.
And what
limitless
an exciting...
I think he is limitless. Honestly, he's
agreed,
such potential, isn't he? Such potential.
Brother, and like, where are his fragilities, his frailties, other than perhaps
and he's only getting better, T. He's so young, he's only getting better, isn't
20,
he? That's the
man. And also, he is a lump. I don't know who it was. Some chap, it came up on social media. I can't remember what it was. Some chap who plays for a lower league team who probably played against us in a cup or something last season. And, you know, those people say,
not Tamworth, was it?
It might have been. But, you know, somebody saying, you know, when people say, oh, I'm good enough to play in the Prem. And he said, listen, man, I played against Tottenham. I'm nowhere near good enough to play in the Prem. And he said that Lucas Bergvall, he goes, I think he was 19 or something. He's so strong and so fast and so committed. And this guy was probably 30, bless him. So Lucas Bergvall is really something very, very special indeed. An exciting time to be a Tottenham fan, ladies and gentlemen. And isn't that a lovely thing? A lovely thing.
Totally agree. I've got to take us away from Lucas Bergvall for a second, just to bring it back to Thomas Frank, Miles, bringing you in there. And you can tell when Marlon is getting excited, he just starts to laugh there as TJ was speaking. And you can just tell Marlon's that typical Spurs day, thinking, can I get carried away? Can I get carried away? No, I've got to laugh. I've got to laugh. I've got to laugh. We love Marlon on the show, we do. And even when people say, even when Spurs are losing, Marlon's expression just never changes. He doesn't. He's exactly the same, I promise you. Same when you meet him as well. Although when he saw me, he was so happy, I can't tell you. He did break into a smile when he saw TJ as well, I'll tell you. But look, Miles, I'll bring it back to Thomas Frank for a second before we hear from him. You know, 3 wins out of 4, 3 wins from 4 games in terms of the Premier League. You know, 3 clean sheets from 4 as well. 8 goals scored under the Dane as well. You know, first in the London Stadium for 6 years, a great start to the season. You know, does it feel like the sky's the limit right now and we should be getting excited about what Frank is doing at Spurs, or do you still urge on the side of caution a little bit?
We've got to go on the side of caution because if we're being completely honest, we had the games that we've had. Yes, compared to last year, we weren't winning them, but they're games that most of us saw on paper and said they're winnable. And the biggest worry was we got carried away before. That's the only thing. We got carried away before. And until we get to, I think it's around November where it really starts to get tough. And hopefully the team is starting to be cohesion and we start seeing the Champions League games come through and hopefully we're through in the cup. I think that's when we'll start seeing Frank earn his stripes when we get to that period. And look, it's all good for now, and the players want to play for him. But it's when we get that first tough period to see how the players react.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's always that's why we stay on the. I'm always cautious when it comes to things like this, because it was a great performance today, and I love seeing it. However, there's always what's around the corner, and obviously Frank. What the biggest thing that Frank had before he came in was everyone said he always had bad starts. Well, technically now he's had quite a good start with us. So where's that bump in the road, and how are we going to cope for it? And when
Miles, do you think that the shocking performance against Bournemouth, do you think that having the international break, having a week, helped them? Because of course I agree with what you're saying. I'm sure everybody watching and listening does, that we can remain optimistic, but let's see how we do when we struggle. Yeah. Would the absolutely turgid performance against Bournemouth, where would that kind of rate for you? I mean, obviously not a crisis, but that was terrible, right? We bounced back today. What do you think about that?
So with that, look, the one thing that always stood out when Thomas Frank came in, he said that when he had the meeting with everyone at the training ground, he said the one thing he will do, they will lose games. And it's always going to be how they bounce back from it. The problem is when we start losing games and he's only got 2 or 3 days and he's got a quicker turnaround. And everyone has said when he had 2 or 3 days between his Brentford days, their win percentage went down to like 50%. So
that week helped him, like the international break helped him a lot, you think?
The same thing happened with Conte. When Conte had a week, he used to be able to get it right. As soon as when he had 2 or 3 days, he wasn't able to get a quick turnaround. So look, I've got to look at it like this. We've got a quite good enough squad. And I say quite good enough. I just look at the defense and the midfield at the moment. I'm quite happy with it. The front three, look, Mwani's going to come in at some point. And I know he's only just started training, so that's probably the reason why we haven't seen him today, because he didn't have a preseason with Paris Saint-Germain. No. The first time he trained was with Tottenham during the international break. So we'll probably likely see him on Tuesday and in the next up-and-coming games. But look, Thomas Frank's got, at this present moment, Thomas Frank has got time on his side. And the reason why I say he's got time on his side is because there's a big piece of the puzzle at the top that's now gone. And I think with us Spurs fans, we're going to be putting a lot less pressure on Thomas Frank over this season. And because Levy's now gone, that pressure's now backed off, because now I think what I've seen with a lot of Spurs fans over the last couple of weeks, we're willing to now give the board to see what they can do going forward. So actually, everything is just coming together. And once the next international break comes up, I think for a lot of our Spurs fans, let's see where we are. Let's see how we're doing. And let's see where Thomas Frank's going to take us. But at this present moment, it's looking good. It's looking like, when we've had that bump in the road, look at the performance we got today. And it looked like everyone wanted to play for it. And I know a lot of people will be looking at the Tell decision playing today, but I thought it was a great decision because he made sure that we were still able to keep a clean sheet. And with Romero, Spence, and Porro, and Van der Ven, and Vicario, I can't forget Vicario, they were excellent. For 90 minutes today, all 4 or 5 of them were excellent. And as long as that core can stay in place going forward, and including your doggy coming back today as well, look, we can make, Frank can then swap it around, see what decisions that he can definitely make, because he took Bentancur out today and he put Bergvall in. Look at the decision. It's been a brilliant decision. Look at the Burnley game. Look at the Burnley game where everyone was so surprised with his selection in midfield, but it paid off because when you come against a low block, and that's what pretty much West Ham were going to try and do in that, but they literally tried to camp in. You can't have Bentancur and Paulinho out there. They're not ball carriers. They're not going to play the ball. So you kind of look at the whole performance and go, he's got it right. Yeah, there was a bit, like we said, it was disjointed in the first half, but he managed to change something at half time and it just seemed to work. And then once we got that corner and Sarr's at the back post, the floodgates opened, and you could tell Souček getting sent off to show the frustration that West Ham had because they couldn't get anywhere near us at times today, and that for us is you got to give a lot of credit to Thomas Frank. And this
Mars, absolutely spot on. Totally agree. Look, what we're going to do, we're going to go for our first break of the show. Let's bring in Thomas Frank, who reflects on the back of Spurs beating West Ham, first time in 6 years. Frank masterminded us to it. Let's hear from Thomas Frank, and we're back after this very short break.
Thomas, well done. I mean, that was a convincing derby victory here at West Ham. Yes, it was a very good win. I also thought we performed very well in big spells of the game. I think the first 15-20 was evenish. But after that, I think we got more hold of the game, and I think we ended very strongly that first half, dominating, producing chances, opportunities, cross it, very, very just, waiting for that goal to come. It didn't come. Second half, you feel it, kind of momentum changed, but we just kept going. The boys did very well, scored a very good goal from Pape, a well-drilled corner. Second goal is maybe even better. Fantastic ball from Romeo to Lucas. Really, really good. And then we just kept going. So a clear and a well-deserved win.
It's interesting you said about the first half, how we sort of got on top of the game. I checked the stats at half-time. West Ham made 27 clearances in the first half.
Okay. That's a lot. That's a lot. But also, I'm big on trying to produce crosses because I think it's so difficult to defend, and especially if the rest defending right up there, so we can win it again and then produce another one, and then over time you will hopefully eventually crack and open. So that bit succeeded today.
So many bits in it we could talk about. Well, let's pick out a few that the fans will be very interested. Like Xavi's first game. You saw the influence he had, especially in the first half. He was just probing away, trying to make things happen. I mean, he's going to get better and better, right? Yeah,
I think it was a promising debut. I like what I saw from him. I think he took initiative on the ball. Something happened when he took it. He looked forward, he played forward. Fantastic assist. So pleased with that. That was promising. And then you look at Pape, scores that goal. I mean, I just spoke to him about it. It's madness with everything that's going on from these corners in the first half. Pape stood there. He just stood there, and the ball and bang with the header. Brilliant. Fantastic header. A fantastic ball from Xavi Simons. And I think Pape is he's been very good this season. Very, very impressed with him. He's, just going from strength to strength. So he needs to keep going.
And Lucas, I mean, the technical ability of that header, by the way, but he looked like he was a player who's just going to let him push, let him get at this West Ham back line, almost like a free roll. How did you see his whole game?
I think he played very well. I really like his energy, his enthusiasm. He's just like part of driving the team. There's so much more to come from him because he also sometimes needs to, because he's young, okay, when do I play a little bit slower? When do I play a little bit quicker? When do I get to these positions? But now the energy, the pressing, running in behind, a fantastic goal. Very impressed with him.
And Champions League next?
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be very exciting. As I say, 24 hours, and we go again. So 24 hours where we can celebrate a bit. I think, you never take for granted you win. Even want to win a lot because it hurts so much when you lose. So I have a big win today. Tomorrow morning, I'll be very focused and looking forward to the next 2 days, and I'm looking forward to Tuesday.
So again, that was Thomas Frank on the back of Spurs beating West Ham United there by 3-0 at the London Stadium. I have to apologise. I feel like I absolutely caught Marlon in mid-sentence there. Look, we're filling our way back in, all right? It's an OG panel. It's the first time we've all seen each other, I think, properly since Bilbao. So we're all still kind of thinking, are you there? You're there? Right, you're there. Listen, thank you so much for joining us. We've got over 5,500 of you that are watching us live on Last Word on Spurs. If you can, for us, keep liking, keep subscribing to the show. That would be greatly appreciated. I'm joined by broadcaster extraordinaire Russ Williams. I'm joined by actor TJ Ramini. And I'm also joined by the brilliant, never cut him short, Marlon from the Spurs Kings is in the house. Let's bring on to the lineup for what Frank had to decide and decipher. And like he said there, it's only going to get tougher because Spurs are going to have to make some difficult decisions in the coming weeks, of course, with Champions League involvement, Carabao Cup involvement. And credit to the guys over at Spurs Global. We don't have to go with the number lineup, which I know is driving people mad on the Spurs official at the moment. You're having to get the numbers quite literally in kind of ascending order. So we're trying to give you on midfield format for everyone out there, or should I say formation lineup for everybody out there. Look, it's 2 games in quick succession. Miles, we'll start with you on this because Frank had 2 new signings in the squad. He has Xavi Simons, Rando Kalamawani. Worth noting with Mawani, hasn't had a huge amount of game time. Joined the club of these two from RB Leipzig and PSG, respectively. The Dutchman, of course, started. His new French teammate, like we said, hadn't started since July. amongst the subs. Is a concern for Spurs. It's around Dominic Solanke. He remains out of an ankle problem. No update yet, and we'll bring it to you if there's anything during the show about when his recovery time may be. But Mohamed Kudus started his first trip back to the London Stadium. It's worth noting on Mohamed Kudus, he completed the most dribbles free of any player involved in the match and created the most chances of any player as well. So a great return for Mohamed Kudus in the side. Look, Frank had a various number of options to choose from, but in terms of how he did line up, we saw Matisse Tell, Lucas Bergvall come back into the team in a 4-3-3. Left back Destiny Udogie came in after making his England debut late on midweek against Serbia, with Udogie now back and fit and likely to start in Europe midweek, so keep an eye on that. No room at all for Archie Gray on a packed bench, so it meant Tottenham's lineup was Vicario, Pedro Porro Romero, captain, Van der Ven, Spence, Bergvall, Polina, Sarr, Xavi, Tel, Kudus, and a bench of Kinski, Danzo, Davis, Udogie, Bentancur, Odegaard, Johnson, Richarlison, Kolo Muani. And Mars, on that point, we've still got, as we know, no James Maddison, of course, no Dejan Kulusevski as well. And like we know, there's no place on there for Archie Gray. So Lubo will be upset, but I mean... Thoughts on that squad that we've got in place there, Mars?
No, do you know what? Having a squad like that, you can chop and change. And as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, I actually think he got the lineup wrong. I'm not going to lie. I actually thought he got the lineup wrong. When you look at who West Ham had in
how can he get the lineup wrong? We won the game 3-0.
Yeah, but like we said, it was disjointed in the first half. And this is how bad West Ham are. Once I saw Fernandes, Ward-Prowse and Souček as that midfield, if he gone with a bit more of an attacking lineup instead of having probably Sarr or Bergvall in there, he could have put Xavi behind in that midfield, and I thought he could have probably played Tel on the left and had someone of Richarlison. I know you might be saving Richarlison for Tuesday, but I think if he had gone with a proper lineup instead of having Tel up top, I think this game could have been out of sight. I think this game could have been very similar to what Chelsea did to them, and it could have been very early on. And that's why when West Ham started to struggle in that second half, because we started to find our rhythm a little bit. But look, Frank got 3-0 win. Who am I to tell him? But I personally thought that we could have had Xavi actually playing in his position, and we probably would have got more out of him. And I think he would have created a lot, because there was so much space that was left between Souček and Fernandes. And Fernandes was struggling, completely struggling in the
And he's their star signing of the summer.
Yeah, and Ward-Prowse apart from set pieces, he doesn't really do anything anyway. So I felt like they were there for the taking in that first half. However, look, we won. We got there. And we'll see over the next few weeks how it all goes. Yeah. But for me, Solanke's a big worry.
Yeah.
He's not going to be around.
Spot on.
But I'm going to tell you this now. Kolo Muani is going to be the one signing that went underneath the radar for a lot of us Spurs fans. But I think he's going to be absolutely perfect when he gets into this team. And I just think there's going to be a lot of people going, oh my God, I didn't realize he was this good. So he's the one I'm waiting for. And with the way Simmons played today, I'm hoping, because there was a German reporter when we signed him, just said, with Xavi Simmons, he's definitely got the abilities. Everything about him is brilliant. It's just whether he wants to turn up. And today he wanted to turn up. And if he turns up for most of the games like he wants to, then he's going to be an absolute baller as well.
Yeah, I mean, what's putting me in excitement is you're excited. So normally when you're excited, normally it's worth getting excited. And I can understand that point. I know you were jovial as well. If the lineup's wrong every week, we win 3-0. Could we just keep picking the wrong lineups? That'd be fantastic if we can. Russ, I feel like I've got to bring you in early. We've got to go to the referees union and get these out of the way. I know Jason always says never hire behind referees, but look, there was such a terrible amount of decisions in the early period from referees that it would feel weird not to even address it, even though we went on and won the game 3-0. I mean, look, there was the early long throw addition we saw from Lucas Bergvall was the latest to attempt the early long throw under Thomas Frank. It caused West Ham some problems. It led to a Kudus block shot. There was an early chance for Bowen. Obviously, he was picked out by Fernandes on the run. But look, we all thought Tottenham did score in the very early period, but only for it to be ruled out. Now, Romero scored from the header. Referee ruled it out. He was alleged to have committed the foul. This is the same foul that Guillermo Vicario gets against him really every week of last season that went unpunished. It went to VAR. The decision still stood. Gerard Gillett, the referee, with John Brooks on VAR 2. I mean, I've got to be honest with you, I was absolutely stunned because, if this is given as a foul, and I think the first clip is actually more damning than the second one, if we can try and grab it if we can. But just really unbelievable, really, how this is deemed to be a foul, Russ. Can you understand it? Because I know James Maddison said, honestly, the referees and VAR have had an absolute shocker at the start of the season. If that goal is disallowed for a foul, you'll never, ever see a corner be taken without a referee blowing for something ever again.
Well, look, in this game, I thought that Mr. Gillett was pretty poor. VAR on this decision, obviously, because they're under a lot of pressure, just went, right, well, we'll stick with your on-field decision. Back to you. There was no time for deliberating at all, as we used to see him with VAR. So I think there is a state of confusion between the officials and VAR in the game, and it hasn't got off to a great start, has it? I mean, one thing that we were told, guys and girls, before the season kicked off, they were going to get strong on holding in the penalty area, right? In this particular incident, Micky van der Ven was held. There you go, two arms.
Grappled, wrestled.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, Fernandez mugged a couple of our players twice and got away with it in the penalty area.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot say we're going to do this, and all football fans go, if they're true fans, they would go, about bloody time, to be honest, because it is a joke what goes on in penalty areas. And a few seasons ago, when it was really under the spotlight, do you remember there was a whole run of penalties, and every manager, every player, every fan was up in arms, and you know, PGMOL said, well, hang on a minute, we did tell you it's going to happen. So Maddison, as that Nick is saying there, was absolutely spot on. Micky van der Ven was manhandled. It was so poor and soft not to give a penalty there. You know, it's just, you know, nonsense. Under the new law, which I've just been speaking about, that they went out of their way to tell us all about again in the summer, we're cracking down on this. How can that not, look at it, be a penalty?
Yeah. Well, VAR says the referee's call of a no-goal was checked and confirmed by VAR, with it deemed that Micky van der Ven pushed Kyle Walker-Peters in the back and impacted his ability to play the ball. And then there's that second one a bit later on where, again, I mean, how does Micky van der Ven know someone's going to push him in the back anyway and be prepared accordingly?
Well, I don't know. That's the one. But I'll tell you one thing, that's the quickest VAR decision in the history of the Premier League. If they checked it literally in about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't believe, honestly, I find that hard to believe. I think that they just went, we think you're right. You know, I think that's where we are, and we shouldn't be there, you know, but if they say one thing, you cannot allow it to happen game after game after game to team after team after team. If you remember Mr. Collina, a famous Italian referee, if he was in the Premier League now, he wouldn't be allowing that to go on. He'd be pointing at the spot, left, right, and centre, because that's actually how it should be. It's a foul.
Yeah. The problem is that it feels like it's almost from one degree to another. Boys, I won't waste too much time on it. So I know we've got some lovely goals to get into in just a second. Do you worry, Tej, about the inconsistency of the refereeing? You know, look, we're 1-3-0 today. So many would say, well, why you mention it? Because I'll tell you why I mention it. On another week, it won't go for us. And it's things like this that really do cause inconsistency in the game. Is it a worry to you, the lack of real consistency in refereeing decisions at the moment?
I mean, what it is for me, what the real worry is, and, you know, Russ bringing up Collina, you know, this legendary referee. Thank you, Mike. Is that I don't think that there are enough referees in the Premier League who have the stones to make a decision and stick to it. So the thing is, as well, is that if I'm the referee, right, and I know that I have VAR, the thing is that, so with this goal, it's very simple, actually. You give the goal because VAR's going to check it anyway. So you give the goal, and if there is something glaringly obvious that you've missed, VAR will go, you know what, Tej, come and have a look at this, mates. I think you should have a look at it. And then I'll go and look at the monitor, and I get a second chance, third, fourth, fifth chance to have a look at various different angles and go, oh yeah, I did actually miss that. That was a foul, no goal. But if you then say no goal on the pitch, VAR is not going to say to you, Tej, you've made a mistake here, mates, because then they're going to make you look like a like an idiot in front of the entire world. So the referees just have the courage to make your decision on the pitch. And then if you have made a mistake, then you can go and look at VAR and go, oh, actually, I missed that. And no one's going to say, oh, you're an idiot. But if you make a glaring mistake like this, this guy, he made so many mistakes today. So just have the courage of conviction, or don't do this. I'm not saying for a second it's an easy job. It isn't an easy job. But VAR has made it significantly easier for them. So have the courage to make the right decision on the pitch. Man, just before we move on to the goals and all that kind of thing, I just want to shout out my boy Momo as well. Big Tottenham fan watching over here in LA. I know he's got a game today. So when you watch it back, man, sending you lots of love.
Love that, T. Love that. Shout out to Momo. Let's go to you, Miles. We only really bring refereeing decisions up when they feel like there's been a sense of injustice. And the thing about it is that, West Ham can't defend Spurs from corners, but luckily VAR could for them. We've got to be real about that. It was two crazy decisions. And I think, when there's a situation where Gerard Gillett has been backed up by VAR, is it a concern to you that it didn't feel as fans that was checked, that incident? Or neither of them, really. Could you understand either of them, Miles, before we move on to the goals?
Yeah, because it's us fans' fault why we're in this situation. Because I've been saying this for years. VAR has gone now in a situation where they've said, we're going to go with the on-field decision. We've been moaning for the last how many seasons that VAR gets involved too much.
Yeah.
And today the referees made a mistake, but they've gone with the on-field decision because that's the new directive that they've been given. So fans have got to make a decision on what they want. Do they want VAR to get involved or do they not? And I think this is the big key thing that because a lot of people don't want VAR. So today the mistakes happened, but it's the referee's mistake. It's not down to VAR. It's not down to anyone else. So what do we want as fans? Do we want VAR to get involved in all these decisions, or do we just want the referee to make the decision? Because I think TJ's slightly right in the sense of he should have probably just given the goal, and then referred, see if it got referred. But I think either way, they both don't. The VAR doesn't get involved. So you've literally just we've got to accept it as fans that these mistakes are going to happen. VAR, when I say VAR, it's not VAR because VAR is showing everybody exactly what the incident is. It's the referees. The referees need to be held accountable for everything that they do in these games. But today, look, it's not cost us. And you're right. There's going to be a moment later on. So, us fans have got to ask ourselves the questions: what do we want from VAR? And today, a lot of fans shouldn't be complaining that VAR haven't got involved because this is what everybody wanted from the beginning. And unfortunately, it's gone against us. It should have been a goal because actually, when you look at it, it was Fernandes that actually pushed Van de Ven into Cole Walker-Peters to the reason why Cole Walker-Peters is on the floor. But that's the bit they've missed. And that's the bit where you start asking the questions of what are the referees looking at. So, look, it's and I've seen a lot of decisions go against what's been happening in the last month or so. But again, it's because the directive has changed from the Premier League. Because 2 years ago, this is given, but it's probably taken about 7-8 minutes to be given. And everyone's complaining for how long it's taken. So as fans, what do we want from VAR? And are we going to accept the new directive was the referee's decision or not? If we want VAR to get involved, then we can't moan in 4 weeks' time when they take 4 or 5 minutes to probably give us the goal. But it's taken that long. It's just one of those unfortunate things. And look, I saw it and I was like, what are they giving it for? When they've said they've given it on the back, you just move on for me. And we go to the next one because at the end of the day, VAR is what it is. We all saw it, but it's the referees that are the problem. And we're going to have a problem with the referees in this country because we'll be completely honest, they're not good enough. Half of them are not good enough. And we've got Gillett from the A-League in Australia, and he's probably not the greatest referee in the Premier League. But you'll get someone like Michael Oliver, who's really good, but he even makes mistakes. So at this present moment, everyone's just got to make a decision on what they want to see from VAR going forward. And that's how I feel about it.
Russ, coming first on this before we go for a break. Go for it.
Do you think we'll get an apology from Howard Webb over this?
No.
No, it's going to be one.
You only get apologies when you get cheated out of it, I think. Listen, totally agree. Listen, we're gonna squeeze in our next break of the show. You're gonna hear for a minute from Tottenham's new summer signing, making his debut. Let's hear from Xavi Simons, who was involved in the action and helped Spurs that 3-0 win over West Ham United.
Xavi, well done. What a great way to start your Spurs career.
Yeah, really happy with the win, especially, and cannot be better. Yeah.
Tell me about this performance, because we just seem to get better and better.
Yeah, obviously for me it's my first week here, coming into a new team, trying to adapt as quick as possible, the system, the way they play, and especially the way they find each other. So yeah, what I said, yeah, trying to fit that, and I think went really good, and obviously things can go better.
We saw you in the first half, especially just coming in off the left, probing away. Did you feel that as long as we kept doing that, we'd get there in the end?
Yeah, that was the clear message of the coach in the half time. We were trying to dominate and create chances. Obviously, they have good quality as well. And in the second half, trying to start as good as possible, and that's how it went. So really happy about it.
And how do you feel now? I mean, you've played your first game in the Premier League. You've played your first game for Spurs. I mean, I say, what a great start to your career.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy to everything started right now. I'm trying to bring my football into the team, trying to help the team with goals, assists, and to win things. So that's the most important thing.
And Champions League next?
Yeah, Champions League next. So now recover good, and we go for the next game.
So that was Xavi Simons there on the back of Spurs, beating West Ham United by 3-0 at the London Stadium. Talk about Champions League. You're going to need for Champions League. NordVPN are back. Of course, our sponsor of the show for the last 4 or 5 years. If you're taking trips in these next few months around the world, you still want your favourite TV programmes, you can do so. NordVPN are back in your lives. You can get our exclusive discount, nordvpn.com/LWOS. Our link will give you an extra 4 months for free on a 2-year plan. There is no risk with Nord's 30-day back money guarantee. And like I say, if you're going all around the world with Spurs, home and away, you're going to need that on your travels to make sure you are watching your favourite TV programmes and also get around some other things in the world which we can't discuss on this show. Let's discuss Spurs back in the goals. I mean, it was a quiet first half and Russ has got his sunny G's on, which means the goals are coming. Quite literally. Let's discuss Pape Matar Sarr putting Spurs
Future's
1 up.
bright, Rick. Got to wear
Future's
shades.
bright. There you go.
It seems to be, I'm a subject of debate with my glasses. So I've got loads of pairs, you know.
Listen, we'll back them through this show. We'll back through the sunglasses we've got on this show. No one knows where this show will ever go. That's the great thing about last one of Spurs. You never, ever, ever know where this show will go. Let's go to you, T. Let's talk about Pape Matar Sarr putting Spurs ahead. Lovely finish from Sarr to steer Spurs in front with a beautiful header. It was scored with a debut from Xavi Simons, who we heard there from the Dutchman, curled in a corner, and the Senegalese was left all alone at the back post to guide Spurs ahead and put us en route to victory. Look, let's ignore the fact it was horrendous defending from West Ham as Pape Matar Sarr was left completely on his own to head in. But Spurs' set-piece edge finally paid off. Tej. Lovely move for Sarr to score, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, the quality of deliveries all day was just exceptional.
Agree.
I talked before about Thomas Frank coming in and seemingly waving a wand and the squad reacting accordingly. Every corner we put in today just looked so dangerous. You know, the cliche of putting it right under the crossbar was just exceptional. And speaking of exceptional, I mean, look, you know, we've talked about Sarr so much already this season. Again, he's going to be a pivotal player for Thomas Frank. And, you know, somebody who kind of came in as maybe, you know, like a 6.5 and a 7 and is now looking like, you know, a 7.5 to an 8.5 game in, game out. I'm also delighted to see him scoring goals. We've been, you know, kind of that midfielder who scores goals. You know, we haven't had one of those for a while, as many people will know, and you guys know personally. You know, Moussa Dembele is one of my all-time favorite Tottenham players, and the only thing that I felt that was missing from his game was goals. And so to see Sarr popping up and scoring, you know, look, it's terrible marking, okay, sure, but you've still got to pop up and put the ball in the back of the net over the top of the goalkeeper. You know,
right place, right time.
Yeah, brother, there's no easy ways to put the ball in the back of the net. So I'm really happy for him. I'm really happy for him personally as well. Everything I read about this kid, he's just such a sweetheart of a guy. He's got a really big heart and a footballing brain, and I love players like that. So may he continue on, man. Like, may he continue to grow and to develop. Yeah. I also love footballers that play with smiles on their faces. Yeah, and he's just such a lovely boy, man. I got so much affection for him as well as admiration. Yeah. Just a sweetheart of a guy. And again, you know, look at him there, right? He probably weighs about, I don't know, £170, something like that, maybe 175. So this kid's, what they refer to in the military all the time, or in kind of like super fitness circles, as power to weight ratio. It's off the charts. That's why he never gets tired. Like if a couple of friends who are, special forces guys, and their power to weight ratio is through the roof. They're those guys that can kind of lift themselves 50 times like no problem. Yeah. And the engine on him and his durability and his commitment, unwavering. I'm such a fan of his, and I was delighted to see him on the scoreboard again. Big up, man. Oh, big up to my boy Wilton, who's a London boy, big Tottenham fan who's living in Florida. I saw your shout out. There you go.
They're all in the house here. They're all in the house here. They all are. We have to get a bigger extension at this rate. We have to get a conservative.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's bring you in, Miles. Pape Matar Sarr. I think T says it so well there. It's so great to see him scoring goals. And, we look back at when Spurs have had great seasons in the league. It's when you've had midfielders that have chipped in with goals. I know Dele's one, isn't it? Dele's a player that you think to yourself, Dele was such an important player for Spurs, chipping in with goals. And we'll come on to Bergvall soon, because he was our youngest league goal scorer since Dele in 2015. Thank you, Matt, for that little nod there, approval for that. But Pape Matar Sarr, great to see him back amongst the goals, and it could be such a big season for his, Miles. I think he's been billed to be one of these generational talents, Pape Matar Sarr. And I think, again, there's been indications, and slowly we're starting to see what a fine player he can become. Is he going to be one of the surprises of the seasons under Frank? I think everyone looks at Bergvall, Scandinavian player. They automatically assume him and Fred are going to get, obviously, on very, very well. I'm sure they are, no doubt about that. But Sarr's a dark horse for me. I really think Frank could be the real magician to unlock him. What do you think?
Well, we have to go back to the summer and in the friendly games, and he made, just by the adjustments that Frank had made, he had made the most improvements in our friendly. And we were all talking about him, like, hopefully he can bring this into the season. We were just like, he started the friendlies off so well. Great. And then all of a sudden, he's come into these last 4 games and he's been absolutely brilliant. For me, Sarr is just coming on leaps and bounds, and he's becoming the first name on that team sheet, because once we're all complaining that obviously we need a number 10, but like Sarr's played in the number 10 role for the last 4 games, and the way we've managed to get him in, the way he's popping up in different positions, and for his goal today, he just seems to now be in the right place at the right time. And I think he's becoming such a surprise package for all of us, because we didn't actually see this coming. Because if you go back to the summer when we're going, who's going to be the most improved player this season under Frank, who's going to benefit the most, I don't think Sarr passed any of our lips. We weren't even thinking of Sarr being in the first 6 because of the way he was quite inconsistent. But now he's like, the way he's getting into certain positions, the way he's getting into the box, even his passing is improved, his heading's improved, his tackling's improved, and it's just like, are we starting to see the Sarr that we kind of thought we had 2-3 years ago that we were going to sign? But he's been absolutely brilliant, and I'm glad that he's keeping it up. And it's going to be quite interesting to see how he gets on in Europe as well, because if he starts performing in Europe like this, we're going to have a hard time keeping this guy at Tottenham, because he's getting to that point where actually he's starting to be quite an important part of the furniture now at Spurs, and becoming a very important part of the starting 11.
Well, I think, let's say, coming over to you, Russ, this is a young player that, to be fair, there's a lot of talk about him being a real potential star of the future. Can you see signs, Russ, that this kid, providing he keeps his feet on the ground and gets regular game time this season, which I'm sure he will, there's a real chance this could be really, I know we describe it as maybe a breakout season, but a player that could really come to the fore here? Because I honestly have said that I think, for me, it could be a really dark horse of the season. Do you agree about Sarr and what he could be this season?
I wouldn't eulogize about him so much right now. He's scored a couple of very important goals for us, including today. I think he's improved a little bit so far under Thomas Frank. I mean, I would remind quite a few Spurs fans, some of them watching, maybe he was saying in the summer, well, we need to get rid of him. So there isn't going to be this sort of reborn player in the space of a few weeks. Do I think he's a generational talent? Well, that's quite a mantle to give somebody, and I think it's far too early to say. I think he's got an awful lot of potential, and I think if he keeps improving in the way that he does And to play, excuse me, to play in a side with people like Paulinho, by the way, can only be a good thing for him. Out of the two in that photo there, I think that Bergvall is the one, if I was going to have a bet, who would probably have a more glittering career by the time they retired, barring injury. I would probably go with Bergvall. That is not to say that I don't think Pape Matar Sarr doesn't have an awful lot to offer Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and no doubt he will. I just haven't seen the spark yet where you just go, that is special. Where with Bergvall, I have. And the header today is a great example of what I mean. And some of his passes today that I was talking earlier about, it's always forward. It's always neat, pushes people off. He's got a different set of skills to Sarr. But don't get me wrong, I really love Sarr.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether I fully believe he's going to be the real deal. That's all
fair.
I'm saying.
Very early days. In between extras, constant time. This is the one we don't need to have a referee's verdict on. This one was definitely a sending off for Tomas Souček. I mean, quite frankly, absolutely lunged in, stud so high on João Paulina's shin. They actually tore through his sock. So doesn't really need any second or third full viewing as to whether this one should have been a red card. I can tell you for those in the gallery, Russ is gawping in the background there as he puts his hand over his mouth thinking, what have I just seen? Yes, he went right through the shin pad, right through the sock of João Paulina. And for those that are watching the show live, they get that graphic image there to show just how far Souček went. That was definitely a red. West Ham down to 10, and they were quite simply imploding from there onwards. It meant for Lucas Bergvall, for him, he scored his first ever Premier League goal. And again, really, I have to say, look, beautiful finish from Bergvall in terms of the glancing header over the goalkeeper. But we have to talk about the pass in between that from Christian Romero, Miles. That was quite simply phenomenal, wasn't it, Miles? I know we'll give Bergvall his dues. It was a superb header. But Christian Romero, stop that. That was disgusting, wasn't it?
I always forget that he's got that in his locker. He doesn't do it often enough.
I know.
And it's very, it's very, Toby-esque, and Dawson used to do it a lot as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they were like that. That's what it reminded. But the way he
when you see where he picks the ball up from, on the halfway line normally,
Bergvall's run was absolutely on point as well. You got both of them. It was like they literally they knew where each other were going to be, and it was literally. And you could, do you know what? It's just one of them. You just looked at it at that moment and went, well done, boys. Well done. Because it was a great piece of play and it was absolutely brilliant. Toby Dele vibes. It did literally give me that. And hopefully we can see more of that and it won't be just Bergvall on the end of it. We've got to make sure that Romero does this more and more often. Because you saw it, he has tried to do it for the last couple of seasons, but we've never had that sort of player to be running on the end of it. So, you know what? I think today for Romero, where he didn't have to play for Argentina in the last game, I think we clearly saw what a week's break does for Romero, because he was just excellent today going forward. And because I think against Bournemouth, he was quite poor, but today he just showed us why he's captain, why he's in this team. And even he scored the header as well. So absolutely brilliant. But yeah, big credit to Romero there. And hopefully we see, like I said, we can see more of it.
Yeah. Also, key, like we said earlier, just to name check that point again, Matt, a viewer listening to the show, very kindly said, Bergvall, our youngest league scorer since Delhi of 2015, Teach, to bring you in.
Yes.
And like I say, for him, 19 years old, 223 days, second youngest player to register a goal and assist in a Premier League match for Spurs, also after Nick Barmby versus Nottingham Forest back in 1992. That's how far you have to go back. Beautiful goal, but at the same time, as you teach, how much do you give Romero credit for the absolute wizardry to pick him out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, listen, anyone who's played the game at any level, just how difficult that is to score. Like when you receive a more or less kind of straight pass, yes, it was beautifully lofted, weighted, it was a perfect pass from Christian Romero to find Bergvall's head in the box. But look, he's about 15 yards out there. It's pretty much a straight ball. He's got two defenders right beside him and a goalkeeper perfectly set and perfectly positioned. Scoring that goal with your head, that for me is the wizardry. Yes, the pass was beautiful, and Romero does have those. But my goodness, he's got no right to score that goal. So talk about marking your first Premier League goal in style. Wow, what a finish. Just absolutely magnificent from a player that all of us have marked on our card. This boy is one to watch. Very, very special, and also just so strong. He really does have kind of Luka Modric vibes for me.
Yeah.
I think he could be that good.
He's a beauty of a player. And I mean, just on that point, Russ, to bring you in, I know like you love Lucas Bergvall. I mean, you make no doubt about it and no shy away from it about your connections of Sweden and what this guy could be and what he might be. I know you gave a glance and I think he could be the one that has an absolute glittering career. I mean, don't forget as well, Bergvall was also involved in the third goal, a little run into the Hammers box as well. But some lovely touches, industrial performance throughout, really. As I said, a really well-timed run, because sometimes as much as we praise the ball from Romero, the timing of the run, Russ, to make that possible to finish is exemplary, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the assist was there for him, if not a little bit fortuitously. But, you know, you've got to be in the right places at the right time. And that's a skill of great players, isn't it? And great coaches who tell those great players where to go when they should be on the pitch. But I agree with TJ that the pass was absolutely fantastic for that headed goal there. But when he was running before he jumped, you could just see that he was going to beat those two defenders to the ball. That's what made it such a special goal, and to have the presence of mind to lift it enough over the keeper to embarrass him. Absolutely
so hard to do that as well when the ball is straight, because you have to generate the angle, the power, and the height. It's so hard to do. I mean, it's really, really difficult to do that. That is a top class, top quality finish.
Yeah. Potentially, he's got it all, Rick.
Yeah, out of interest,
potentially.
How do you see him managing Bergvall? Because there's obviously quite a lot of midfield options now. Do you think we'll see him consistently in a lot of Tottenham's Premier League Champions League games, or do you think he will be rotated just like everybody else? Is there such a thing now as a standard 11? Is it the fact now that you will see a lot of different rotations in the next few weeks for us for him?
I think he'll be rotated, without a doubt. But I think that he will definitely be involved in some crucial moments for our team this season, because the manager knows what he can do, where he can use him, and when he should use him. I have that faith in Thomas Frank. I mean, one or two people I've been reading the comments saying, you know, he's the new Luka Modric. He's got an awful long way to go to even be remotely close to that player, as we all know.
I agree with T. There's certain things you see of him that just think he's got that almost certain touches
physically as well.
Yes.
You know, I mean, not to be too graphic, but look how man fills out those shorts.
No, really?
You know what I mean?
I say, Mr. Bond,
Lord,
I don't think you should be saying stuff like that on this podcast.
So we're after the watershed.
He's a bit Viking lad.
Solid. He's just so strong. Like Modric, like Dembele. Try to get those guys off the ball, man. He's just such a powerful kid. And he's and technical, and his ceiling, man. He's a special player. Quick Palhinha shout out as well, man.
Please,
I think that I thought he was brilliant today, and also I think that Thomas Frank kind of held his hands up and said, I don't really need to play Palhinha and Rodri Bentancur together at the same time, and just have a bit more faith in these guys as well. Like, you've got to have trust in players like Palhinha, trust that he's good enough to do it on his own, trust that the two central defenders behind him are good enough as well to do their job, because it just kind of freed Sarr and Bergvall up. To be honest, that's why I thought we were quite poor in the first half, is that what it was, our central midfielders weren't on the ball enough to then give the ball to our wider players. We weren't getting enough out of Palhinha and Bergvall and Sarr to get Kudus and Simons into the game, let alone Tell. And so just kind of pushing Sarr and Bergvall a little further forward, and the Palhinha just saying, boys, I'll do this. I will do this. I've got it. You guys go win the ball, go spread it around, go make those forward passes that Russ has been talking about. Find Kudus more, find Simmons more. I'll do this. And didn't he do it well? I also, you know what, man? Fair play even to Souček. You know, when he did the foul on him, he immediately held his hands up. He didn't make a pass. He didn't go to the ref and do any of that.
Bloody hell, after that, too, could you imagine him?
But bro, listen, you know,
listen.
You know, I know it was high, and I know, of course, he's out of control and reckless and all the rest of it. But the amount of times that you see a player like make a pass, and he held his hands up and walked off the pitch. Yeah. Fair play to him. You know, fair.
He's probably waiting for a copper to see him off the pitch. It was that bad, wasn't it? It was honestly
yeah, exactly. I mean, he was led out of the stadium in handcuffs, but you know.
It's going to be intriguing, though, isn't it? Before we come on to Micky in a second, Miles, it's going to be intriguing to see how Frank does deal with the actual squad rotations now the next few weeks, like Russ has touched upon there, because, you know, they're all big games coming now. We all know we've got potentially a 55, 60 game season ahead of us here, which is why I've been driving you all crazy and getting the diaries out. I mean, how do you think Frank is going to deal with the element of the different games coming up now? Do you think you are going to see a consistency of 11, or do you think you are going to see a lot of changes? Because to be fair, we'll come on to at the end of the game in a second. We saw a number of players make their way and come on for respective other players.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of change in the midfield. I think TJ was right in the sense of, and that's why I was a bit moaning about the lineup earlier, because I don't think it was right in the sense of, I think in the first half, I think Bergvall was playing too deep, Sarr weren't playing long enough, and then in the second half they played up together, which meant we could get in behind, and that's because I think that West Ham went with the wrong lineup. But what we'll start to see is that I think we'll start to see Bentancur and Paulinho rotate a lot, especially home and away games, when you start to see who we're playing and who the opposition is. You'll start to see Bergvall, Sarr start to move out, because look, there's a lot of games coming up, and the Champions League, he's got, you know, from Wednesday to Saturday, I don't think all of them will be able to play 90 minutes consistently. But yeah, look, I think what we'll see over the next month or so is we'll start to see who he thinks is better for certain games and who needs to come in certain other games. So look, it's going to be the front line as well, that who's going to play up top. I think is going to be the most important part, because if we're all being honest, if Richarlison's the only fit striker and Mawani doesn't hit the ground running, even though I think he will, Richarlison can't play Wednesday, Saturday. No. It's just never going to work. So actually, this is why we might have seen Tell today to see what he's going to be like if he is called upon to play in that up top. So look, we're going to see a lot of changes over the next couple of weeks. I won't be surprised if we see 3 or 4 on Tuesday as well. Well, Tell obviously is going to be one, but I think we'll see 3 or 4 in the starting lineup. I think Udogie will come back in for either Porro or Spence to give one of them a bit of a rest as well going forward. So, but yeah, Danso will probably be used in the Premier League next weekend. I reckon. I think Van der Ven and Romero will still stay in, but then Danso will come in next weekend just to start making sure we don't get into the Ange situation. And I have to bring up Ange, where he's consistently playing the same back four, and they literally start to all flounder, and then we're only left with Porro, who can literally play every minute, and even you can see his performance starting to struggle. So look, we'll see how it goes in the next few weeks, and I think we'll get a clearer idea.
Yeah, and just for fair balance, I will just say, we also are aware, just before everyone, I know people will come back, we are aware, obviously, that Ange did miss the back four, obviously, quite a number of times last season in between rotation. We'll just quickly just say that. We're going to move on very quickly. Let's talk about Micky van der Ven. He added Spurs' 30, summed the game up for us very, very nicely. Again, could work from Tell down the left. You know, you have to say that. Could work from Tell down the left. Found Paulinho, who played in Bergvall, the Swedes run in the box, ended the ball, falling to the Dutchman to fire home Spurs' 30. Took it ever so well, it has to be said. And yeah, pretty much concluding the game for Spurs, buried it into the bottom corner. Then we saw Micky actually waving away the exiting West Ham fans. Perfect day at the office, wasn't it, T? Just come to you on that point. Micky van der Ven really summing up what was a great day at London Stadium, where we've not had, like we said, a great record up there. 6 wins, 6 years since our last victory up there.
Yeah, fantastic. And another smart finish, you know, seeing an available corner and just kind of passing the ball into the back of the net. You know, he's another really clever player, isn't he? You know, that belies his years. Everybody knows about his pace and his dribbling ability. I saw him make some key kind of defensive headers as well today. That for me was a frailty that he had that he's clearly been working on. He's another one to Marlon's point, when we're playing in the Champions League and, that bright spotlight is on so many of our really promising players. I know that there is chat about his new contract at the moment, him and Rodri, actually. We're really going to need to show serious ambition and intent by honouring these guys with the contracts that they deserve. Otherwise, I hate to say it, he could be off. And he's a very, very special player indeed. I mean, almost unique abilities for a centre-back. I don't remember another centre-back. I mean, of course, we all remember the great centre-backs over the years, Maldini. It's a long list, but none of them had pace like this boy. And he's a very, very special talent.
He is indeed. He is. And like I say, we have to hope on that point that, the Lewis family, that we were, again, just to be clear, we're in attendance for the game. We'll look at players like the Benson Cores, like the Micky van der Vens. And I think the key, isn't it, Russ, really at the moment, there's really all they can do in terms of transfers right now. But what they can do is lock down players that could be a key part of Spurs' future. Is that what you want to see, Russ, just very quickly on this point about the Lewis family?
Yes,
they can't do much
absolutely.
now in terms of transfers. What they can do is secure players for the future.
Yes, agreed totally with what TJ was saying there. Other side of the coin is they've got to make sure that we don't still have a good proportion of duds who cost a lot of money that come into the club. I mean, I've gone on about it for years. We have bought some rotters over the years and spent a lot of money on them, and I think it will change, and it needs to change. Money's tight. Let's spend it well. And we have done largely recently, haven't we?
Agree. We have done indeed. Miles, I'm going to come to you. Then we're going to quickly hear for a minute from Bergvall. Then we are going to round up. But it's been a great, great show on Last Man Spurs. Lovely to win like we have done. Of course, Micky putting the icing on the cake. You've got to say this, Miles. He made 3 or 4 really, really good interceptions in that game that might go amiss, Micky. But it just kind of shows you the kind of player he was. That despite being wrestled to the floor in one instance in the first half, didn't really let that bother him. Was excellent for most of it. Got his goal, sweeped it home. But the back four were good with general. I thought Romero is a really good, terrific captain's performance from him. Highly involved in it, really came his way, dealt with it. Jed Spence, fresh off an England debut. I thought Jed looked fairly, fairly good, competent down his side. And Pedro Porro, again, nothing really got to him too much. I think there's certain games where you concern yourself about how Porro is going to be defensively. But that is now, Miles, just to be clear, 3 clean sheets in our last 4 games. Are we slowly turning the corner under Thomas Frank, scoring from set pieces, keeping clean sheets? Are you going to say to me, Ricky, shut up? I can see Russell saying, Ricky, shut up. Just calm down. Just calm down.
Do you know what? It's that sliding doors moment where Paquetá hits it wide and he should have probably played it. Porro was so out of position. You're like, Porro, what are you doing?
I'm just giving him praise.
But however, once they all settled in a little bit, they were solid defensively. I think what's key to what we're seeing are very, very different to this season. Again, I'm sorry to compare it to last year, is we're seeing what Van de Ven is like without his pace. And what I mean by that is we're not seeing him having to make recovery run after recovery run after recovery run. We're only seeing him use his pace when he needs to. And so there was a bit where Bowen was on the right-hand side and Bowen was chasing it and Van de Ven goes completely siding in. But as you said, the amount of blocks he has, the amounts of tackles he made, and this is without him using his pace, where for the last 2 seasons, he's literally he's always been the last man. So we're starting to see Van de Ven become a more comfortable defender, a more better defender. And we're starting to see another side of him that we probably hadn't seen before. For me, Romero is a good defender. However, we sometimes get not the Bournemouth performance out of him. But look, brilliant player. Spence again. There was a couple times with Spence today I thought he just made the wrong decision. I think when he gave the free kick away, I thought he didn't have to go into Bowen like he did. However, 1-on-1, no one beats him. No one beats him 1-on-1. He's just literally easy. But and then when Danso came on, again, this is what I'm saying. This is when we're bringing people in. When Danso and Udogie came on, it's exactly the same. It's not like we're seeing a drop. And that's the most important thing to this. And
Agreed.
the fact we've kept another clean sheet, and
Yep.
Vicario is also important to all of this. And I've had, like me and TJ have had our bits about
Didn't
Vicario.
have much to do, did he, Vicario, in the game? Didn't have much to do.
But it's the way, but he was calm, and he was actually more commanding his boxing.
There was a good punch in there as well from Vicario. So one good punch. There was a good punch.
And from corners, it was from the corners that where West Ham had a few corners, and they put it right on him. And he's getting a good fist on it. And this is the thing that we want to see. And it's slowly coming together. And you know what? The more clean sheets we're going to keep, the better.
Agree. I mean, the good thing about Vicario is if we're not talking about him, it means that he's doing his job. That's the biggest praise I can give him, right? I mean, that is the key to it. We've mentioned a lot of the players, and I want to just say again, Mohamed Kudus, there was a lot coming into this game about what Kudus would do and what he wouldn't do. But, I think, when you look at the overall performance, he was booed every touch. He had an early shot block, but he was a constant menace, you feel, down West Ham side. They're going to remind that for you if you didn't know it already. He completed the most dribbles of any player in the game and created the most chances of any player. So all you hope is when a player comes up against their former club, that they do give everything and they show why we went and spent the money. And he did. So well done to Mohamed Kudus. A real good team performance. Xavi Simons, we mentioned, making his debut. I said it a couple of times. But again, obviously his first assist for the club as well from that cross that led to Pape Matar Sarr heading home. A real good team display. But the man who got man of the match was Russ's man, Lucas Bergvall. We're going to close and hear from Lucas Bergvall before we give you our love and goodbyes. Let's hear from Lucas, and we'll be back after this.
Okay, Lucas is here. Well done. I'm going to get straight to it. What a header. Tell me how that felt.
Unbelievable. Yeah, my first goal in the Premier League. I'm so proud. Me and my family as well. Great ball from Kuti and a great finish as well. So, yeah.
It seemed like you almost saw that the goalkeeper was slightly off his line and you had to loop it over him.
Yeah, I saw him coming out and I just thought, this is my chance. And yeah, it was a great finish. Luckily it wasn't offside. Perfect timing on that one. So yeah, I'm really happy.
We saw you today really pushing on, really pressing, leading that press. How did you enjoy that? Because, you're a player with bags of energy. It seems like a perfect role for you.
Yeah, it's been really good. I think today's game was really good. I feel like we got better and better throughout the first half and the second half. I think we're even better. They got a red card and we just keep going. 3 goals and a clean sheet.
We said to Xavi, it just felt if we just kept going, we would get there. Was there confidence there in the players that we would?
Yeah, definitely. It felt like we broke them down, created more and more chances, and in the end the goals came.
Brilliant stuff. Now, if we look forward a few days, Champions League, you looking forward to that?
Yeah, it's been a dream since I was a little boy to play, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one, yeah.
Okay, let's get a bit deeper into that. When you hear that music for the first time, how are you going to feel?
No, I don't even know, just, I don't know, like a kid, watching Champions League, you always wanted him to play, and on Tuesday, it's the first game, so looking forward to it so much.
I remember when Richarlison joined us, and you got to remember, a Brazil international here, he said, the first time he was going to hear the Champions League music, he said, I'll have a tear in my eye. I'm not going to say you're going to have a tear in your eye, but it's an emotional thing for footballers, right?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things you can accomplish in your life in football.
So yeah, that was Thomas Frank there. Not Thomas Frank. That was Lucas Bergvall. You caught me at it. I thought we were having a bit longer clip. You caught me at it. That was
Mel
Lucas
Brooks
Bergvall.
can sleep safe.
He certainly can. That was Lucas Bergvall about Champions League, and that is where we're guiding to you next. We are going to be back after Spurs' night in the Champions League. But look, we're all, like I say, delighted after. Gotcha. The 3-0 win at West Ham. Big win for Spurs to get their Premier League season firmly back on track. I want to say a massive thank you to broadcast extraordinaire Russ Williams. That would never be caught like that live on camera. Russ, thank you so much. You absolute star.
Quick word about Graham Roberts. We all wish him well. Obviously, he's got a big battle on, Graham. So
we do.
Good luck, mate.
Lovely words there, Russ. Thank you so much. Russ, we're going to see you very, very soon. The diaries are out. Everyone's diary's been full now, I think, to the end of November. Don't get too scared. No one book a holiday. Don't you dare book a holiday. Only joking. You can. Miles, thank you. Even though I cut you short earlier, what a night for the host. He's an absolute mare here, but everyone else has done very well.
I think I've had a mare too, don't worry. But the quad is on. As King Hoddle says, the quad is on. It's still on.
It won't be forgotten, Miles, when you said the lineup was wrong, but we won 3-0. But I agree with what you're saying there. Look, if we can get that lineup wrong every week and win 3-0, I'll be the happiest man ever.
Yeah, but when it goes against us, you'll all be going, oh, moaning this, that. I just thought we could have dealt with the game earlier. West Ham are not great. I think that's what it was. West Ham are not great. And we saw the change in the second half of what we did because Frank changed the tactics because he saw that it wasn't working. And I think that's the bit that people are not getting. It wasn't working, so he had to change it. But he ended up changing the way we were, as TJ said, with Bergvall and Sarr playing as 2 number 10s instead of having them where they were. That was ill. And that's why we ended up getting a 3-0 win. Yeah,
we will finish the weekend joint top. We will. Let's come to you, TJ, on that point. Could we? I'm going to leave a queen now. Could we? Early days, right? Just enjoy this start.
Yeah, early days, but it's all so promising, isn't it? You know, very positive. We're playing really well. I mean, again, like, look at the bench. You know, the bench is quality. And of course, we've got, you know, Madison and Kulusevski still on the injury table. So we're in so much better of a position this season than we were last season. And it's working. And the boys look happy, man. The boys look happy and unified. You know,
very true.
I think it's really important to be reminded that, you know, as much as we love this and as much as we invest into this game, it's a game and it should be fun. And they look like they're having fun. Thank you, Dan.
And that's the most I've seen Russ smile about 6 months on this show.
Yeah, man, great to be back on the show. Lovely to see you, Russ. It's been forever. Marlon, always a pleasure, brother. Ricky, thank you so much. To the viewers and the listeners, thank you as ever. I'm going to give a shout out, one more shout out, 3 for 3. We scored 3. One more shout out to my boy James Carrington. I saw him sign up for the show, subscribe to the show. Long-time friend, a lovely guy. Had some struggles over the last few years and has really kind of found himself again. And a lot of that has been through him and his son talking about Tottenham. That's a special thing, man. So love to you, brother. Thank you for tuning in and watching the show. May you and your boy continue to talk about Tottenham, the agony and the ecstasy. But it's a lovely thing, man, when you can share this with your family. And of course with the Spurs community. So honestly, my thanks to everybody. Lots of love. Stay happy and healthy, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Steve, lovely words. I mean, like I say this every time on a lot of shows here. I had no choice. I had no get out. You know, my dad, bless his heart, there was no option. When he called me Ricky after Ricky Villa, I was stuck with him. So days like this, wouldn't change it for the world. But in typical Tottenham fashion, who knows what's coming next? I want to say a massive thank you to the wonderful broadcaster extraordinaire Russ Williams, the superb Miles at the Spurs Kings, the brilliant TJ Ramini. We've reunited these 3 wonderful men. And listen, I'll take a bit of loving out there when I'm not playing away on the behind the scenes footage. Guys, we are back, are we? From us all. Keep safe, keep well. Thomas Frank's engine, it's revving again. As always, keep safe and come on.